Hello everyone, welcome back to the Card Combo Show with me, Chuckabilly, and this week I'm going to be looking at a card that on first impression looked okay at best, but it turns out it's a pretty powerful card with some really good abilities. Might be awkward to play, but it's still really decent. I am of course referring to Warrior of Light. So yeah, it's the only 4-element multi-element card that we have. It is fire, wind, earth, and water. With the text, you can only pay with CP produced by backups to cast Warrior of Light. So that means there's no doing fire and wind through your backups and then paying some from hand. It has to be entirely backups. It has haste, first strike, and brave. There's only second card in the game to have all 3 as standard. And then when Warrior of Light enters the field due to your cast, activate all the backups you control. Draw 1 card. Again, pretty good. And then it's got the dull effect of choose one forward, deal 5k damage. That dull to deal 5k didn't seem too impressive to begin with, but actually now it's got a lot of good utilities, and this card in general is a really good and fun card to play. So let's look at some of the best, or some combos with it. I wouldn't say that these are the best, but you know, that's me. So first up we have Philo. So this might seem like a bit of a weird one, but Philo gives the ability to all your Sky Pirate backups to be able to generate water and wind. So it means that by having Philo on the field and any other Sky Pirates, you are then able to generate 2 of the elements required for Warrior of Light. Now, if you throw Class 8th Moogle into the mix, you now have 3 of the required elements. You've got Philo giving water and wind, and then Class 8th Moogle giving you earth. If you go into Wind Fire, you now have Varn, who can also generate wind and water because of Philo, but obviously you can generate fire as well. So, with these 3 backups on the field and then any other fire backup, you can generate all the elements required for Warrior of Light. You can be in just Wind Fire and have all the backups required to play this card onto the field. That's pretty strong in my opinion. Yeah, so obviously you would require, at the very least, you do need Philo and Class 8th Moogle because you need the Earth, and in Fire Wind, that's the only means of generating the Earth. And yeah, Philo being able to generate the water as well is very nice. Making it so Varn can also generate both wind and water is quite nice. It means you've got some versatility there, but you will need obviously that last colour accounted for. So if Varn is generating the water, Philo is doing the wind, Class 8th Moogle is doing the earth, you need another fire backup, but then it could be that Varn is generating, I don't know, the wind, Philo's the water, Class 8th Moogle, you still need fire somewhere else. So you do need that additional backup, but still, it means you can be in just a 2-element deck and very easily play Warrior Light from your hand. Cast him even. Alright, next up we have Arc. So a fairly obvious one, but Arc, when he enters the field, he can get your Warrior of Light card to your hand, because he is fire, earth, and water. But if Warrior Light is on the field alongside Arc, he fulfills Arc's prerequisite of if there are 4 or more elements among the forwards you control, the forwards you control gain plus 2,000 power. So Warrior Light becomes a 12k forward, and Arc will go up to a 9. But yeah, you can have literally just Arc, Warrior of Light, everything's plus 2k. Oh yeah, also worth noting that this kind of works nicely with Luso as well. Now, the old school play with Luso was to play him with Yuri, the light Yuri, because he has all elements except for dark, so that would completely fill out Luso's ability. Luso requires there be 5 elements among the forwards you control though, and obviously Warrior of Light only has 4, so you would need an additional element among your forwards. It could be light, dark, lightning, ice, whatever, but it does mean that you are able to at least get 4 of those elements with the Warrior of Light. Now combo that with Arc, it means that, because Luso gains plus 1,000 from, for each forward you control, right? But if you say you've got Warrior Light and Luso on the field at the same time, Luso gains First Strike and Brave, that's fine, but ultimately he's only a 6k with First Strike and Brave, which isn't amazing. So being able to have Arc on the field, so then Luso becomes plus 2k from there being 2 forwards, but also plus 2k from Arc's effect as well, means that he becomes a 9k First Striker with Brave. So having Warrior of Light and Luso both on the field with First Strike Brave is pretty scary and very significant. Dario Horn. So at the end of your at the end of each of your turns, choose one forward, activate it. There are a few cards that do this similar sort of effect. I think there's Rem as well. But the whole idea is that you get to attack with Warrior of Light, dull, deal 5k to something, then he's still got the attack on the stack. But you want to have it so Warrior of Light is there to block on your turn as well. So Dario Horn reactivate at the end of your turn. You then got Warrior of Light, who at the very least can at least dull to deal 5k again on your opponent's turn. Amiditelian. So, pay 2 ice, 1 colourless and dull. Remove the top card of your deck from the game. If that card's cost is 4 or less, you may cast it without paying the cost this turn. This, as far as I can remember, is the only legal way to be able to cast Warrior of Light without having to pay all the different elements. I've double checked this on the official Twitter, because Amiditelian allows you to cast the card without paying the elements, it means that he does just come onto the field. Now, you can also use the Mind Flayer summon, but that takes it from your opponent's deck. This is the only legal way to be able to cast it from your own deck, I think. You can technically reduce his cost to 0 if you have the means, but that would be very, very awkward. I think you'd need like double casts of Sid Haze to get 2 reductions of 2. You also could actually do it through oh, actually no, it wouldn't work with Faris, because I don't think she allows it to become 0. But either way, yeah, Amiditelian is actually able to play Warrior of Light onto the field completely for free, and you get his entry effects from the cast. So, activate your backups and draw a card. Sarah FFL. So, Warrior of Light is a very substantial card and very, very useful. So, paying 7 for a backup to play him onto the field might seem like a lot, but actually, in my opinion, it's worth it, because if you really need this card on the field, he is a problem. He can be broken fairly easily because there's loads of summons out there which will just outright break, and similarly, it's not hard to deal 10k damage anymore, but he's still a problem until your opponent finds that answer. Sid Sapphire. So, choose one forward and one other forward. Until the end of the turn, the former loses haste, first strike and brave, and then the latter gains all of the abilities lost by the previous effect until the end of the turn. So, like I said before, Warrior of Light is one of only 2 cards in the game that has all 3 effects. So you can use Sid Sapphire to move them from Warrior of Light to another forward if you so chose. And there are loads of good forwards that you could do, and I'm not going to go through every different forward, but yeah, being able to make it so that they all gain brave, first strike and haste is just pretty, well, not all, sorry, that one forward gains those 3 is bonkers. So it could be a case of you attack with Warrior of Light and then dull to deal 5k. Your opponent doesn't block, they take a point damage. You then use Sid Sapphire to take Warrior of Light's effect and give it to something else. They then attack with, you can then attack with that forward with brave, first strike, haste. You know, it's just really, really powerful. And with forwards that are quite cheap but have a high power, so I don't know why, but Borgen's the first that comes to mind in Earth. You know, giving him first strike and haste and brave, that's not too shabby. Go. So again, I think it was Chaos, something Chaos, I've forgotten its full name now, which used to got played with Go-Go, because it means if that Chaos is in the break zone, then Go-Go would gain haste, first strike and brave. But now this Warrior of Light works for this as well, so it means that he'll only be a 7k, but he does at least have all 3 of the effects. So even when Warrior of Light does die, you can still capitalize off of that effect. Now, if that is the case, you probably want to be running something like Kalmia or Lena to make it harder for your opponent to get rid of those cards from the break zone, because, I mean, that's fairly rife these days, either being able to steal things from your opponent's break zone or removing it through things like Arciela, or there's X-Death as well, removing all the characters from your opponent's break zone. So yeah, just having it so that those cards are protected if you're going to utilize it makes sense. Gilgamesh, again, a similar sort of effect, making sure that you've got the right cards in your break zone. So with Gilgamesh, if you have 3 or more different elements among the cards in your break zone, he gains plus 1000 power, haste, and first strike. So with Warrior Light in the field, he immediately becomes an 8k first striker with haste. So not the worst. Now really you want Gilgamesh to have the 7 different elements though, because that way he also gains brave, and then when he can attack 3 times in the same turn, and when he does attack, choose one character. If you have 5 or more different elements among the cards in your break zone, dull it and freeze it. So you could have Warrior of Light in the break zone and then say an ice card, because you're probably going to be an ice with Gilgamesh FFBE. Or Earth, to be fair. But yeah, making sure you've got the ice card there. With Warrior of Light, you then hit the 5, which means when he attacks, you get 2 dull and freeze characters. But you will need 2 additional elements alongside light or dark, or you need all of the elements and either light or dark to be able to hit Gilgamesh's full effects. So having something like lightning in the break zone, which covers the 2 elements missing from Warrior of Light, means that from these 2 cards alone being in the break zone, Gilgamesh is at 6 elements. You put a light or dark card in the break zone, Gilgamesh is now completely online. Iodolus. So this is I didn't really rate this card at first, but now that I think on it, with Warrior of Light, to discard 3 cards for 6 CP from your hand, turn 1 to play Iodolus, to then play Warrior of Light immediately onto the field, that's a pretty strong turn 1 because Warrior of Light is a horrible card to get rid of. And, you know, paying 4 for 1 backup and a big forward, which is problematic, your opponent's cost will probably end up being more than that. Now, obviously, that isn't the ideal play doing it turn 1, but still it is a play, and you would still require Warrior of Light in your break set, or in your hand to be able to discard it for the Idoless. But either way, it can be played into the field. If you've got a couple of backups down, just Idoless straight into Warrior of Light. That's pretty good in my opinion. Mont Leonis, so obviously Warrior of Light is also an Earth forward, and you could, to be fair, run Warrior of Light in a mono Earth deck because, as I said with my most recent Mobius weapon deck, you can just have a backup line of just Earth with the multi-element generating backups, and you'll be fine, to be honest. So yeah, you could have Tyro, Shantoto, and trying to think of another multi-element backup, Catchy, all in the backup line. Obviously, that would if the stars align. And then one other Earth backup, pay 4, play Warrior out into the field, and you're in mono Earth. But either way, it's also the right element to be able to play Mont Leonis. His cost will go down. You play Mont Leonis to then get Warrior Light from your break zone back onto the field. Another easy way to be able to free cast him. Magissa. Yeah, Warrior of Light is a very easy and nice way to be able to trigger Magissa because it's just about the right amount of damage, and yeah, you can use Magissa on your opponent's turn as well, which makes it really good with Warrior Light, because if you attack with Warrior Light and you don't want to use the 5k ping on your turn, just wait until your opponent's turn. They go to pass turn, you can't kill anything with the 5k, just use Warrior Light and Magissa, play something onto the field for free. That's super strong. So, Ishtar is a pretty good one. If your opponent is attacking and you fear that they can probably break Warrior of Light or Magissa and you just want to take that point of damage, use Warrior of Light, hit Magissa, bring Ishtola onto the field, take that point of damage, and then deal something 4k. Now, obviously, you could use Warrior of Light to then just deal 5k, but the problem is that if you use you could block with Warrior of Light and then dull to deal 5k, but there could be some kind of interaction there, whereas if you take that 4k with Ishtola on the field, and then you can block further forwards with Warrior of Light, that's not too bad. You can start dealing more things, 4k pings. Also means if you're expecting to take multiple points of damage, say through, I don't know, the new 13 starter deck, all those forwards attacking, dealing you passive points of damage, having Ishtola on the field ain't too bad. It also benefits something like Warrior Light, who might be able to finish that forward off. Lice, say you go to 5 damage, you then Warrior of Light to Magissa, bring in Lice, everything's now plus 2k. That's pretty good. Alphino, you might have a forward on the field, or just a backup on the field that has a good S ability, or just a back attack, to be fair. Yeah, Warrior of Light into Magissa to then play Alphino onto the field, to then search you any character and add it to your hand. Faris. So, yeah, obviously, you have Warrior of Light, he might block with him, then Dull to use Magissa to then bring out Faris. Faris enters the field, deals 1k to all the forwards you control. That would be including Faris and Warrior of Light. You then get to do 2 lots of 3k to 2 of your opponent's forwards as well, bearing in mind that they also just took 1k. So it means that you would potentially deal 7k to something. So bear in mind that Magissa has taken 5, and then she'll take an additional 1 from Faris, so she ekes a little bit closer to actually being killed. Axstar, yeah, being able to bring Axstar onto the field and play something from your hand to then Dull and Freeze. Yeah, Magissa and Warrior Light, but probably all your opponent's forwards as well, or a lot of your opponent's forwards as well. And then you've also got the attack from Axstar as well. And again, doing this on your opponent's turn is just disgusting. Gyatsuko. So this is a funny counter to, say, your opponent putting a card on top of your deck. There's a card in Opus 19 that does it, though. I can't remember what it is. Is it the Light Tidus? I can't remember now. But either way, yeah, say your opponent puts a card on top of your deck, and then they go to attack you, hit you for point damage. Warrior Light into Magissa, into Gutsuko, remove that top card from the game, and then when Gutsuko leaves the field, you get that card to hand. That's quite funny, in my opinion. Yuzuki, really, really good. If your opponent is going to kill Warrior of Light, probably through an ability or something like that, you can Warrior of Light to Magissa to then get Yuzuki onto the field, so that now if a water forward you control is dealt damage reduced by 2000 instead. He is a water forward, but he's also a fire forward, so if he's dealt damage from abilities, it also becomes 0 instead. So yeah, just means that he's very hard to kill through damage now as well. I mean, he already was because he's first strike, right? But now he's even harder to get rid of. And it also adds a little bit of protection to Magissa as well. But what's also good is the fact that Magissa will be protected from your opponent's abilities, but not your own. So you can still hit Magissa with Warrior Light's 5k to then go search something, but your opponent would need a summon to be able to finish Magissa off. Right, and moving on to the further forwards, we've got Shantoto. When she's dealt damage, deal the same amount of damage to all the forwards other than Shantoto. For damage by this ability is put from the field into the break zone, remove from the game instead. So Warrior Light to deal Shantoto 5k, flick a 5k around the board, hopefully kill some small things. If not, just threaten removing anything else that might attack through the game. So it could be a case of you attack with, or your opponent, sorry, attacks with something, and then you block a Warrior Light. Obviously, he's got first strike and 10k, so he's probably going to kill that forward. But then you dull Warrior of Light to 5k to Shantoto, flicker that damage around the board, that damage resolves, then the blocking forward dies, hopefully, and then that will get removed as well. Adelard, again, fairly obvious, right? But being able to dull Warrior of Light to deal 10k to something for only 2 fire CP is pretty gross, and this fits in nicely to a mono fire deck, to be perfectly honest with you, because as I mentioned before, having something like Idolist to replay Warrior Light onto the field for free is really good, but then be able to double the damage Warrior Light does, and also being a massive forward with first strike, pretty good. You throw Sanctuary Keeper into that as well. Ugh. You pay the 2 fire to double the damage. You dull Warrior Light, deal something 10k. Go to combat, Sanctuary Keeper. Dull him again to deal 10k. It's just broken. Well, it's not broken, sorry. But it's, yeah, pretty disgusting. And there we go, folks. That is Warrior of Light. So a bit of a shorter video, but that's kind of the... Well, I say shorter video, it's actually 15 minutes. Jesus Christ, was I talking for 15 minutes? Either way, yeah. Let me know what you guys are thinking of the shorter format videos. It means I can focus more on one card and kind of talk about them a bit more at length, like with the Magissa thing. So yeah, there's some really, really cool combos out there, and especially now that we're kind of getting into proper tournament season now, we're starting to see some proper jank crawling out the woodworks, and I'm really looking forward to playing a few of the tournaments in and around the UK. So yeah, I will be going to the Dark Sphere and the Brotherhood Games events. Sorry, having a drawing blank there. But also, my local game store, Athena Games, is also going to be hosting one of the store championships as well. So make sure to come down. It's literally about 150 meters from my house, so it's prime real estate. Either way, yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys there. You make sure to come down to the Athena Championship if you can. It's a great venue. Norwich is a lovely city, fantastic market with fantastic food. There's so much there, and it's also good. Anyway, stay safe, people. Be lucky. See you next video, and at the championship.